Hi, my name's Karl Wolf, and this is my persuasive speech for my public speaking class. First, my audience for tonight: Kyle and Caden, Devin and Cameron, Melissa, Candy and Susie, and finally Keith, Chris, John, whatever your name is. The topic for this week's family health speech is HPV, or the human papillomavirus. It's a kind of unusual thing for me to discuss, especially in front of a family group, but it's a topic I'm familiar with because I've been participating in an HPV study for the past 3 years. Kyle got me into this study as it was part of his job at the Moffitt Cancer Center, and I was able to make a few bucks on the side doing it. It's also a subject that has two sides to it, and that's what I need for my third public speaking speech. The debate on HPV is not about what it is or what it causes, but rather about what can or should be done about it. There is a vaccine available that can prevent certain types of HPVs, but the use of this vaccine, Gardasil, is not yet universally accepted. After a brief background on HPV in general, I'll give you some arguments both for and against the use of Gardasil. I believe you'll agree that despite some misinformed objections, this drug is a tested, safe, and recommendable means of preventing specifically potentially disastrous HPVs, especially in women. And it should be requested by parents of eligible young ladies at the earliest recommended age. Its mandatory distribution through the school inoculation program should also be supported. There are other types of HPVs, but I'm going to focus on genital HPVs. They're the most common STD, or sexually transmitted disease. It's estimated by the CDC that 20 million Americans are currently infected, and another 6.2 million will become infected in the next year. At least 50% of sexually active men and women will acquire a genital HPV infection at some point in their lives, although most will never know it. The virus infects the skin and mucous membranes of the genital area, but in most cases its presence is benign and no signs or symptoms are noted. You must also realize that there's more than 40 genital HPVs that have been identified. Some are low-risk viruses that, even if they manifest, do so only as genital warts on either sex. Left untreated, they go away, sometimes stay the same, or may increase depending on that person's individual immune system. They do not lead to fatal complications, however. Others are high risk, and if not cleared by the person's immune system or treated, they may create cancerous cells. This happens most often in women in the area of the cervix. Two specific types of HPV cause 70% of all cervical cancer, and according to the American Cancer Society, 11,000 women were diagnosed with cervical cancer in 2008. Left untreated, cervical cancer will cause an array of gynecological problems, including sterility, and if it spreads, this cancer will kill. Approximately 3,700 women die from cervical cancer each year. Men are also at risk, though a much smaller one, of having HPV infections lead to cancer. Approximately 1 in 100,000 men will be affected by penile cancer. The vaccine Gardasil, of which I will speak, is currently being tested to see if it is safe and effective for men, but for now, it's only approved for use by women in the ages of 9 through 26. The young age recommendation, as well as some misconceptions about vaccines in general, have led to some debate over how Gardasil should be administered. But first, some specifics about the vaccine. Gardasil was approved by the FDA on June 8th of 2006. It is administered in a series of 3 shots given over a 6-month period. It, as most vaccines, is derived from a genetic altering of the DNA of target viruses, creating a protein which causes the inoculated host to develop protection against infection if they're exposed to the active virus. Of the 40-plus genital HPVs out there, Gardasil only prevents types 6 and 11, which account for 90% of genital warts, and more importantly, it prevents types 16 and 18, which cause 70% of cervical cancers. Its side effects are minimal and transient. There's some pain, swelling, itching, bruising, or redness at the injection site possible. Headache, fever, nausea, dizziness, and vomiting are also possible, although these side effects occur to some people anytime they get a shot. Although it does not protect against other HPVs nor other STDs such as HIV, Gardasil seems to have the potential to eliminate cervical cancer, much as we have eliminated polio. So where could be the problem? As 31 states consider mandating the vaccine for middle school girls, naysayers have popped up from several different camps. Christian conservatives argue that this is another safe-sex drug which will promote promiscuity. There is also an anti-vaccination movement which is against any and all vaccines. And there's also parents' rights groups that are against government mandates regarding their children's health. Finally, there's a general mistrust of big drug companies. Merck, the drug company giant, is the one who makes and markets this particular drug. However, all of these arguments against Gardasil ignore or minimize the fact that it will save lives. Obviously, Merck has a vested interest in the success of the drug. It is a for-profit company that has invested millions, and its competitor, GlaxoSmithKline, plans to introduce its own HPV vaccine soon. But to repudiate a disease prevention program just to spite a big drug company is counterproductive and kind of disturbing. They deserve to make a profit if the product is demonstrated to be safe and effective. The anti-vaccine groups have been around as long as there have been vaccines. They object on vague grounds of government conspiracies and their theory that vaccines infect people rather than prevent disease. These groups are generally misinformed on how vaccines are made or function, and their conspiracy theories are really from left field. Administering Gardasil to young people raises red flags to the moral majority, but the notion that a vaccine that prevents specific strains of HPV will encourage young girls to have sex seems ludicrous. The vaccine is simply most effective when given to young people who have not yet been exposed to the targeted HPVs, hence the young age recommendation. Mandating inoculations to all middle school girls, and possibly soon boys as well, is refuted by some parents' rights groups, but only by making them compulsory will all social and economic classes get the shots. The hope with this, as all vaccines, is to eliminate the target viruses from the viral pool, and this can only be done with universal compliance. In conclusion, the drug Gardasil shows great promise in preventing certain HPV viral infections, and thus the more serious complications down the road. The product was tested on 11,000 women and girls worldwide, and to date, Merck has distributed 16 million doses in the United States. Per the FDA website, there have been 9,749 reports of adverse effects. 94% of these were classified as non-serious and included fainting, nausea, and pain at injection sites. Only 6% were classified as serious. 20 deaths were reported, but there was no commonality to suggest that Gardasil was the blame. As of April of 2009, the CDC and FDA both conclude Gardasil to be safe and effective, with its benefits far outweighing its risks. And Professor Ian Fraser, who invented the drug, recently stated he believes boys as well as girls should be included in the mandatory immunizations. Parents should continue to get their daughters immunized and should support mandatory immunization programs in their communities.